Okay, Psalm 69, another one of David. So he asked God to save him. His life is threatened. He's sunk in deep mud. He's weary with crying. His throat is parched. I'm not sure if he's talking about a literal flood or something. It sounds very literal though. And this is probably at the end of his life when he was escaping from Absalom, or that's my kind of like gut feeling of it, because at the end I think his eyes started to fail him, and then so it says in verse 3 his eyes fail him while he wait for God, and then what he have to like restore things that he did not steal, so people were lying about him and he have to just justify himself by doing the right action. So he know it's his foolishness is related to it somehow. And I think yeah, so it must have been something to do with one of his sins, because he knows that there's guilt in him, and he knows that God knows it, and that God is staying away at that moment because maybe of unconfessed sin. Maybe this is a psalm of confession. But David's heart is really right here in verse 6. When I sin, I really get scared that other people will then say, oh, if that's a Christian, then I don't want to be one. I think that is like my greatest fear of bringing shame to God's name, bringing like misrepresenting him, or kind of it's like in the Asian culture it's more like there's a culture of saving face or losing face, and I don't want God to lose face because of me. And so David is living in dishonor. He is estranged from his family. He became a disgrace. People taunt him. But he still prays to God that at God's timing, that because of God's mercy, that God will answer him and rescue him. And then he talked about how God is merciful and good, and to do not hide God's face from David. And that's really a real good image of how I want my relationship with God to be, because I don't ever want to see God turning his face away from me. I think that reminds me of like when Jesus was on the cross and God just couldn't look on the sin anymore, and God turned away from Jesus. And there's that disconnect, there's that relationship disconnect that Jesus never experienced before. And that's why he said, Father, Abba, why did you leave me or turn away from me? So I think like David had that heart of wanting to keep a strong relationship with God, wanting to see God's good face and smiling face on him. And so now he is disgraced, shamed, dishonored, Because of the disgrace, his heart is broken, he's sick. There's no sympathy, no comforters. And then they even gave him bitter herb and vinegar. And then he started to rant about his enemies, hoping that they don't get blotted out. And they get blotted out and not recorded with the righteous. So that's not really the heart of Jesus. We should pray for our enemies, but I think David is in a lot of distress. I mean, sometimes I just wish, people who oppose me would just, go away. So I think he is in that situation. But he wished for their death, I think. So he is afflicted and in pain. But he encourages us that those who seek God, then let our hearts be revived, and the Lord hears the needy, and he does not despise those of his, even the ones that are prisoners. Heaven and earth shall praise God, the seas and everything that moves in them. And God will save Zion and build the cities of Judah, so that they may live there and possess it. And the descendants of his servants will inherit it, and those who love his name will live in it. And I think when I read this, I just immediately thought about the conflict in the Middle East right now. And I know Israel will be saved. I know God can do, and God will keep his promise to his people. But I also know that the conflict will escalate until the Antichrist, and it won't be resolved until Jesus reigns and Jesus wins. So, yeah.